I'm recording this in December of 2021. Right now, there's a lot of pushback on some new bills that would require banks to report a number of things to the IRS, right? So in this article, they're talking about how a bunch of customers were fighting back. Customers are banks' best allies in fight against IRS reporting measure. A lot of red tape, right? It's not even just about what the IRS might find, but just all the red tape of having to report would probably increase the cost to hold a bank account as much as it has over the last few years, right? I remember when I was a kid, you used to never have to pay anything for a bank account unless you did something really drastic like bouncing checks or anything like that, right? But I knew this concept as a very young kid, actually. Part of the reason I love precious metals was that as a very young kid, I realized that money doesn't really have value unless it's somewhat private, right? My parents used to have a hard time with me associating with the wrong people. When I was in college, I was involved with a girl that my parents didn't really approve. You got to remember, this was in the early 2000s when it was still popular to be racist, right? You gotta remember, this was not long after the Cold War had ended either. Fresh on people's memories, right? It was popular to be somewhat racist as well, right? My parents wanted me to marry another Asian girl, right? And fast forward 20 years later, my parents disapprove of me being solosexual, right? So there's always something that's popular to be against, right? And so in order to have money to go on dates, I would often ask for money for various things from my parents, for lunch money and all that, but I would skip lunch and keep that money in my pocket. And then I would accumulate $100, $200, and then finally I could take the girl out, right? Of course, nowadays they'd rather me meet a girl from a different race than to be solosexual. I wonder what the next trend will be 10 years from now, right? But I learned as a teenager that there's a difference between money that my family gives me and money that I can spend privately without any intrusion, right? Now, last week, when I was in Wallace, Idaho, I stayed in a motel in Wallace, and to my dismay, the Wi-Fi wasn't working correctly. And I went to the front desk, and they told me, oh, you could use the Wi-Fi at the desk, right? And I got a problem with that. I wanted to do something that was a little bit private, right? I mean, I could certainly bring my work to the front desk to do, which I ended up having to do, but there's something else that I want to do with the Wi-Fi. That was a little bit more private, right? And it just goes to show that privacy is part of your wealth, right? And if you keep your precious metals in some kind of storage, you lose out on that.